This craft tool is beginning to bug me. So this is my current strap cutter. Blades tend to break, they're real thin. But if you haven't seen one of these, so you just put your leather in there and you pull it through. I'm going to push it through for this, but just kind of hold it against this flat edge right here and pull it through. Get a straight edge on a whole side of leather and set that on the table and pull it all the way down. Strap cutter, and I keep breaking blades. Not all the time, but enough to where this craft tool is beginning to bug me. You can see right there where it's cracked. This little piece comes off. It's a great tool. It cuts straps, but it's beginning to bug me because I keep breaking these things. And a lot of it's some of the leather that I've had to use on some projects has been thicker, and I've thinned it down, and it's just maybe I keep the blades in too long, which I probably do. They're not expensive. They're pretty cheap, a couple of bucks, 5 spot or something like that maybe for a pack of them. I ordered a new version that just came, and I'm going to open it up and compare the two. Holy cow. Alright. It looks like they're basically the same design, but let's take it out. I think I may like this a little bit better because the slice doesn't go all the way through. On the Tandy one, it's opened on one end. So the blade is retained by these in the back, so you kind of slide it in, and this goes in. Well, I'll do a comparison here in just a sec. So I thought I needed to explain this a little bit better with the Tandy version. This is the handle, this is the screw, the tension screw, and this is the blade. Now you can see one end is open. This is the side with the measurements. So what happens if you put the blade in here, and there is a screw hole that comes down through here. So there's a screw right there that's on the inside, and it butts up against the back of the blade. And then there's a little plate right here, kind of a tension plate. So that's inside the wood. So what you'd have basically is that is what you would see. This hole is exaggerated right here just for purposes of showing what I'm talking about, where it breaks. Now, aside from the blade breaking, what I'm having a problem with every one of these I've had has done this on either the top block or the bottom part, not the handle, but the top piece where the blade goes or the bottom piece where the blade goes. This top half breaks right here, and I'm having to glue that back together to get several more months of use out of it. Now that's the Tandy style. Now the difference with what I just bought and I'm showing right now, there's the handle, there's the tension knob, it is a little different, but this slice goes all the way through both top and bottom pieces, and there's wood on both sides, and this nut, this screw, hits the blade just for tension purposes in the middle. But when I talk about this Tandy Craftool one breaking, not only is it breaking the blades because they're very thin as compared to this amount of space where the blade is this wide, the blade of Tandy version, Craftool version is this wide, but it breaks right here. So I wanted to say that before we went any further. And on to the show. Here we go. Looks like you still pull it through. Still got some measurements. Still got the tightening thing. And it comes with blades. A little different from a normal razor blade. So I don't know how easy these are going to be to replace. And so I'll have to look into that. But okay, I haven't gotten it all put together yet, but just wanted to say I've noticed that feel between the Tandy version or whatever version you get that's this style. this feels better in your hand than this one. This feels kind of light duty, but the one thing I noticed is you gotta adjust this almost all the way just to get this piece to go in. There's really not much play in there in the space, the thickness of the leather you can pull. See how wide that opening is? I couldn't tell you how big of a difference it is, but the space here on the Tandy one appears it's going to be able to handle thicker leather. And I pull a lot of 10 ounce or more strap through this, starting off depending on what it's going to be, you know. Tack, something for horse or tack or something like that, or a workman's belt, like a lineman, electrician belt. Those are pretty heavy duty. So I do like this space right here. But let me go ahead and put this together with the razor blade. And see, one thing here, these are turn knobs. They've got little bitty, see how that is? Little hex type screws. And that does not appear to come in the box. So you probably have to have some Allen wrenches. There's no grooves on this to give you a good finger hold to tighten it up. Let me get the blade in. Okay, just a little thing here. I do like the width of this blade. I think the Tandy blades are about maybe a half or less the width of this blade. But I've already noticed you can't really tell how far those screws go in. If I'm pulling the leather through this way, so this is leather, so I'm pulling it like that, the sharp edge of the blade needs to face this way. And it goes in the top one very easy. But you're kind of blind on getting it through the next one. Can't really see where that is. There it is. So, and there's a lot of extra blade exposed right there. But I did have an Osborne tool, which was the all metal with the blade sticking up, and it worked great, but it didn't I love having this extra flap right here. The Osborne's basically this with a big blade, and it's open on the top, and you hold it with your thumb. I guess you could still do pretty wide pieces of leather in this. You do have an ability to adjust it down here, but I'll pull some leather through it later, and we'll see how it works. Look how wide this is. This is my new one, and as I mentioned before, the space from here to here on this new one is not as wide as from here to here on the Tandy. So I'm able to adjust this to get this wide gap right here, and it can even go wider. The further you're down, the less wide you can go. Now, if I was doing a 2.5, 3-inch strap, this would pinch together and you could get this even wider, which I probably wouldn't do. Like I said, I'd use 10 ounce, 11 ounce, my thickest straps. But this one, this space is so small that, and I even took out the little spring and a tension bar that go in the back. The Tandy has one too, and I use it. But the space here does not allow you to get a good gap. So let's go back to my template. See, it's already too tight. It doesn't allow you to pinch these together anymore. So that's set up to that width. I'm going to tighten it just a hair to hold it in place. But see, that's about as wide as I can get that. It doesn't open any wider because there's not enough space between these two edges. So there's no way that I'm getting a piece of thick leather through there. Now if you move it down, if you do a wider strap, it kind of allows you to get some more space. But as you tighten it up, the smaller width of a strap, the gap closes. And this kind of bunches up in here. And the way these aren't tight at all. So anybody thinks that it's not opening because I've got these on tight, they're not tight at all. I'm going to give this another day. But I'm thinking I'm either sending this completely back. Look at the gap. Look how wide. Look at that. I mean, I'm literally forcing it apart. I think the width of the blade kind of grabs it a little bit too. But see how it's pinched down the end? You can't even, there's no space in there for these to move further apart. I don't know whether they made these too thick or somehow this just isn't the right width right here. I don't get it. I'm either missing something or this just doesn't work. And as much as I've used this and the metal Osborne type, I don't see why I can't figure this out. Okay, just want to let y'all know what I decided. I'm keeping with my Tandy version Craftool strap cutter, simply because the amount of space you can get right here on this version. I tried everything I could to get the other one to work better, to open up more in this gap, and it just would not do it. There's not enough space between here and here to allow it to open wider. I don't know whether they had made these pieces too tall, but that's the way mine came, and it just didn't work. Now, if you're pulling something through like some really thin upholstery type leather, something like that, fine. But if you're pulling something through like a piece of strap leather, you know, something thicker, even one of my banjo straps, that tool just wouldn't work. That strap cutter wouldn't work. So it's either the Osborne metal one, which I use occasionally, but the open blade kind of freaks me out a little bit. And I think the reason that things are breaking simply is that I'm keeping the blades in too long. I don't use a lot of thin leather like this. I use saddle leather, stuff that's made, you know, make Western tack and saddles. And like any tool you have in leather making, you just got to make sure that you have a sharp tool. So sticking with this, it works well. If I break it, I glue this little piece back together, get several more months out of it, and I'm just going to do better on keeping my blades sharp and replacing them as I need to, just like you would a needle on a sewing machine or anything else. So I hope this video, as long-winded as it was, gives you an idea on selecting one of these. And I'm not putting a link to the other one or anything. It just, I don't advise buying it. And I'm sure some people are going to comment on how to make it better, but for my needs, it just didn't work. So, Whitaker Leather. See you next time. Like and subscribe.